Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Medicine for These Times. I'm Beth Weinstein. I'm so honored to have Drew Bankey here with us today. Hi, Drew. Thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Beth. Just glad we could connect.
Yeah, so good to meet you. This is a good one. I rarely to never just invite people on who I have never heard of or don't know, but someone had tagged me on a post, and you and I connected, and you just seemed to be really interesting. And I realized, I've never actually interviewed. Not that I can remember. Maybe not, but I don't think I've interviewed a combat veteran who's worked with medicine to help heal and also make it their living, their psychedelic entrepreneur, medicine for these times business. So I wanted to bring you on. So I'm glad to have you here.
No,
Um,
so
I'll
honored.
tell people just a little of your background, then we'll go into your story. So Drew is a combat veteran, medicine man, author, public speaker, and ultimately a messenger of the evolutionary shift we're currently going through as a planet. Drew is also the co-founder of a nonprofit medicine church based out of Colorado. He's known for mind-bending, consciousness-shifting discussions on some of the deepest questions facing humanity today. So yeah, Drew, it's interesting because we've all heard of the combat veterans who've come back and then, suffered from PTSD and then maybe whatever it was, drank ayahuasca and voila. I actually donate to the Heroic Hearts Project, and I know there's some other groups doing work like that. But I would love to hear your story, especially in detail, because this is pretty deep stuff. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on. I was like, well, I've never really actually talked to someone about what it's like to come from that level of experience and then have some kind of a profound healing with certain medicine. So yeah, let's hear it.
Sure. So, my ceremony started, from the moment I took my first breath. I was adopted at 5 days old. Didn't find out I was adopted till I was almost 18. So I was like 5 days before I turned 18. I had no idea. Got into an argument with an older sister, and it come out, and she told me to ask mom and dad, and I asked my mom. And it was just a huge shock to me. And so that was a pretty big trauma. Immediately took on abandonment issues and trust issues. So I had abandonment issues from my family that put me up for adoption. I had trust issues with my family that raised me, and really I was alone. I couldn't trust anybody, and went through some really dark times, addiction and drug use and the whole gambit. And finally went in Army Reserves in 1999. Come out of there pretty straightened out and actually become a cop. So I was a cop for 3 years, a sheriff's deputy in Georgia. And 9/11 happened while I was a cop, and the reserve unit got activated, deactivated to go to Iraq a few times, and it didn't end up going. And just had a really deep calling to go. Ended up quitting being a police officer and went full time Army, and found myself in Iraq like a month later, in Baghdad. So that was 2005, and some of the heaviest combat. Although I wasn't in heavy combat the first deployment, I basically hauled around dignitaries and government officials. I was part of a PSD, a personal security detail for high level people visiting Baghdad, basically. So, armored taxi, got hit by some IEDs, but never even took my weapon off safety that deployment, really. And second deployment was totally different. I went to Ramadi in 2007, and it was at that time it was the most dangerous city on earth. And the unit we were replacing, they had like 100 engagements a day or something that they were dealing with. They had over 100 casualties over the year that they were there. And it got real going to Iraq. Right before we went to Iraq, our commanders and stuff told us to write letters, like, and seal them up and leave them with the command, and they would send them to our families if something happened to us. Like, it got very real before we even got there. We knew that we were going into some heavy combat, and it was. Um, I wouldn't say I did anything extreme or anything, but I seen and did things that I wasn't expecting to go to that level with. And come back with PTSD unknowingly. I got out in 2009. I had a back surgery and got out medically discharged in 2009, and never didn't have a PTSD in my packet then. From 2009 2014, a lot of drug use, a lot of depression, suicide attempts. And 2014, I woke up in the ER after a suicide attempt. I was unconscious for 28 hours, and I was very confused of how I was still alive, why I was still alive, and knew that everything, my life was going to come crashing down. And I lost my house. Was starting a business then, and it was only a few months into it. Lost that. That just went from bad to worse. And that was the time I met my now wife, girlfriend, and she's seen a light in me, I guess, and that I didn't see. And we started dating and everything, and she kind of gave me the first reason to be alive. And fast forward 2016, I felt that depression and suicide coming back on, and I knew it was. But that suicide attempt in 2014 got me diagnosed with PTSD, got me enrolled in the VA healthcare system, blah blah blah. From 2014 to 2016, did a bunch of different therapy modalities, medications, talk therapy, all different types of things that the VA wanted, had suggested me to do, and none of it was really working. Started slipping back into PTSD, back into deep depression, having suicidal thoughts again, and they were coming stronger and stronger. I knew it was only a matter of time. And around that time, ayahuasca come up in a conversation, and that seed planted in me. And, I'm sure if a lot of people listening, can understand what I'm talking about. That seed started growing in me until, it manifests into a ceremony. And I drank my first cup in 2016 at Soul Quest in Orlando, and didn't see anything, and drank 2 cups. The first night was just hell on earth, and wanted to leave. I woke my wife up early in the morning before anyone else was up. She was there with me too, and she drank the medicine for the first time. I was like, "How was your experience?" She said, "I didn't have anything. It was just horrible." I was like, "Let's get out of here before everyone wakes up," And she's like, "We paid for another day. We paid for a second night." And I was like, "I don't care. Like, they can keep the money." I was like, "I'm not going through that again." Long story short, I ended up staying, drank that first cup, and 20 minutes in that first cup, I, felt like I was taking my last breath. I thought I was, there's a long story behind it, but I thought I was sitting on a railroad tracks. I saw this huge light coming at me. My physical mind was making all types of excuses of what it was. And then when the light hit me, it just was real clear what it was. And I started going through the tunnel. And at that time, my perception was I was seeing past lives. Now I see it more as dimensional fields or vibrational fields that we exist in. But at that time, it was a series of past lives I was seeing. And at the end of that tunnel, I met the spirit of ayahuasca and the spirit of cannabis. And they said they've been with me my whole life. And I've kind of been smoking since I was like 12, just early starter. But yeah, um, just blew me away. And I sobbed in the spirit world with ayahuasca. And she hugged me multiple times and told me, "Don't worry, she'll see me again real soon." Told me to come back as soon as I could. I went back the next weekend and uh, drank 2 more nights. Well, drank a daytime ceremony was my third ceremony. And I went into that ceremony with the intention of asking why I was here on this planet. And it showed me writing books, speaking, um, having this church, and like, it even showed me like meeting the Dalai Lama and things like that. And like, having like really spiritual talks with all around the world. And at that time, that was not anywhere in my radar at all. I was a combat veteran. That was my identity. And I told the spirits I had the wrong person. They showed me why they had the right person. They showed me all that trauma and the darkness that I went through, especially the stuff in Iraq, and uh, you know, being there and being in the space to take lives, not necessarily taking, but being in that space, that mindset to possibly do that. It was needed that same intensity was needed to help heal the planet. And, I come out of that just blown away, and gallons of ayahuasca later, and tons of other, ceremonies, and some plenty of non medicine ceremonies, sweat lodge, and Sundance and everything. And here I am. And so that's the short version of it.
I know. I'm like, I want to hear all the details. I get really fascinated by just the description of the VA giving you probably, some antidepressants or antipsychotics or maybe a combination, right?
Yeah, I had pills to get my mood up during the day. Then I had in the evening I had pills to get my mood down, and then I had pills to help me sleep. And on top of SSRIs, I was on 5 different medications when I had to start my detox from my first ayahuasca ceremony. And um, you know,
Oh,
not only that, coming back from our first weekend and opening up the freezer to get something out for dinner and seeing I had a handle of Crown in there that I would go through like 2 of those a week. Every night I would have 2 or 3 Crown and Cokes, and I had no idea I was an alcoholic. I just had no. I thought I was just
normal.
drinking, having a few drinks at night, and just coming back with the profound clearness of and the rawness of where I'm at, in this moment, and what I needed to do to move forward. And especially after that third ceremony, I've had, I don't know how many ceremonies after that, but that third ceremony was just really a shock to me of what I was supposed to be doing here. And I knew I had a lot of work to do, and I knew that going inside myself and cleansing myself was one of the first things I had to do, and getting my vessel ready for this mission. And
Mm.
you know, I've done that, done that in several ways.
Yeah. Oh my God. Thank you so much for sharing. And it's just, it's really incredible to hear this. And actually it's funny. I didn't even make that connection. Like, yeah, if you're on all these drugs, you have to definitely detox before you go step into this ceremony space. And the polarity of having to even just get yourself off of that is such a process within itself. And it's interesting being in this space for a long time and also being on this path for a long time. There's a lot of us that say, "Oh, it's not a miracle," but then again, we've all had miracles, including myself, and these stories, like your story, many people I've interviewed over the years, myself just having like the moment, like that one moment that just shifts everything, or multiple moments. And like you, it was very common for me, even like, oh my God, I'm never doing this again. Why am I doing it? It's hell on earth. Like, how is this good? It's hard. It's work,
Mm-hmm.
and it's interesting to hear you say like that first ceremony was so bad that you guys were about to leave. I'm curious, what was it that you found to be so challenging about it? Was it just the physical, or was it like what you were seeing, or like you weren't
I
ready to
wasn't
handle all
seeing
this?
I wasn't seeing anything. I was going through a lot of pain, and just I was in the bathroom a lot. I didn't even throw up. I was just in the bathroom a lot. So you can let
Yeah.
you figure it out from there. But
Yeah.
so I had a lot of grief and lower traumas in my lower chakras. Now through my work, I know I can see it. I can diagnose myself a lot better back then. Back then, it was just like, I got a really bad case of the flu, and I'm like, maybe, I'm not going to come out of it. That's
Mhm.
where my mind was there. It was just like, I couldn't go through that again. But I'm really glad that I trusted in the medicine, and I think it's all a part of the process. Like,
Yeah.
the medicine wanted to see if I was going to push through, and it knew I was anyway. It just knows all. So, um, but yeah, and ultimately it's just myself. I was testing myself to see if I was going to go back into it. And I did. And, um, and being a lot of things I've done Sundance and Sweat Lodge and things like that, and set with North American, Native American, a lot of North American, Native American ceremonies. And my unbounding whiteness, is a big test setting in some of those ceremonies, because there's, sometimes ridicule and people saying things, but coming out and being the cliche guy, the white guy with the vision of being a spiritual leader, and No one knows for sure whether that was vision the way it happened, other than me. But I'm just, and that's just another test. It's always there's a lot of tests in this path,
Yeah.
but thankfully, my path is getting less hills and valleys, and now just a little curves here and there moving forward. So I'm that's all I can ask for. I got four beautiful children, two new babies. I got Ember and Hawk. Ember just turned 6 months old, and Hawk is about to turn 2 in January. He's a 111 baby. He was born 111 2022, and they're both like star babies. And I
Of
got two
course.
older children, Sienna and Gage. They're 18 and 20. And
Mm.
yeah, I couldn't ask. I got a beautiful life, and I think lots of my path now is being a mirror for people and
Yeah.
letting them see like there is hope. Like no matter how dark it can get, there's hope of what it could be. And there's so many miracles. What he was talking about. We were just on a reality show that just aired recently on Discovery Channel, and you know, going from I got really emotional during the show, and that's probably why they picked that episode. They picked our episode for the season premiere of Homestead Rescue on Discovery Channel. It aired November 19th. So I got very emotional during the filming, and like one of the final interviews, I kind of just broke down because they handed me a sign that they had made for Sacred Journeys Within, and just holding that sign, and just my mind went back all the way back to that suicide attempt and waking up in the ER, and just flash forward everything that's happened from then all the way until now. It's so amazing, from
Oh.
just under 10 years of
Mm-hmm.
so much has happened.
It's amazing. It's amazing how fast things can go. I'm constantly reflecting back on 10 years because for me it's 10 years has been like this rapid evolution, and of course my whole life was just this constant spiritual awakening since I was a kid. But you said something that's interesting last night. Full transparency, I actually was in a ceremony myself during the day yesterday.
Mm.
Don't ask. And there was just this moment where it's not new for me or for anybody, I'm sure, but there was so much collective grief moving through my channel that I just had that moment of like release, like deep guttural cry that just needed to come through. And I said to my friend afterwards, I was like, I mean, I tend to be an optimist. I tend to be a believer in everything is divinely perfect as it is, including every ounce of grief and war and destruction and death and things that we don't want to happen but are happening, and to just know that there is always light somewhere. I mean, I really do believe that. And I said to my friend, I was like, do you have hope? And he's like, I'm not sure, but I always do. And I actually was going to ask you, and I wonder, what is your personal mission with what you do now? Like you said, you help people now, you go around speaking, you have this church. What is your overarching like umbrella mission with this kind of work you're doing and the people you're serving?
Just waking up humanity to the reality that of who they are. They're a particle of God and living on two legs, and they need to find the balance in between those two truths. They're a living being, a 3D being, but they also need to come to another truth that they are a particle of God walking on two legs, and they need to find the balance however that fits for them in between that, like whatever feels right in the moment, basically. And I've had near death experiences, and been working with Bufo for the past year very intensely, and working with other people with Bufo. And uh, I had a profound experience with oneness back in 2018 without medicine, and it just happened. I went to the throne room. I went to become source, and I realized why um, everything was there was nobody waiting in the waiting room to become source. There was nobody there because people to go there for a short time, then they come back with that truth um, of interconnectedness and oneness and everything. My first book, I'm Perfect and So Are You, just speaks about the divinity of nature, and um, something that we need to wake up to. We've been lied to for a very long time. We've been taught to say certain things that ended up blocking us. Nothing's ever perfect. That's total bullshit. Like everything, there is nothing but perfection. If you're experiencing anything different, like you need to shift your perception, because that is what's off. Ram Dass has a famous saying, like, we're not quoting directly, but the real work is in the inner heart. And don't get stuck at the gate. Go into the inner temple. And that could be no more true. Like our portal is inside ourselves. And I just want to wake humanity up to that. It's very empowering. And for us to have there's two things, there's multiple things going on right now, but there's an individual shift and there's also a collective shift. For the collective to shift, there has to be a mass of individual shifting. So that's my mission.
Yes, that's it. I'm constantly saying that too. It's like everything starts from within, each individual, ourselves. This is the goal, right? It's like everybody, well, not everybody. There's a lot of external right now, like finger pointing and blaming and canceling and arguing and division and separation happening on the planet. And it seems to be getting more and more intense. And I keep saying, it's like, well, are you turning inward first? Like end, as I always say, end the war within yourself. If you
Mm-hmm.
want to end war on the planet, it has to start from within.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad you're talking about this message about the perfection is already there. You are perfect. It's all of it's been programmed wrong. And I think, people are kind of reaching these breaking points where they're like, okay, I sense that something's wrong because I'm miserable, I'm unhappy, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I'm suffering. It's like the collective traumas. And, these medicines, while yes, they can be very magical and we can have these instant healings, that it's also really important to have support, to have community, to have connections to people that will guide you how to bring the lessons from the medicine and integrate it into the moment to moment, the day to day. Now I'm curious, it's not, I told Drew this when I brought him on. I was like, well, I'm always apprehensive to interview facilitators or people with churches, for various reasons, because it's like a wild west out there and we don't know who's doing good work. But
Sure.
you can usually sense when someone has a really good heart and a good intention and a very good story. And and that's kind of why I was like, okay, there's something about you that I'm feeling is good, and let's talk about this. But I want to talk and ask about what it's like running this legal church in Colorado, and who's coming to you and why. Is it mostly veterans? Is there a certain kind of group? Like, is there, like, what's the reason why people are coming to this church, and what's happening, like, that you're sensing in the kind of clients that you're serving? Like, is there a common theme since you've been doing this?
Yeah, it's whatever I'm going through, really. And whatever I've just start ended going through, like whatever growth pattern I'm in, that tends to be what the clientele comes to me. And I think that's the design of the universe. So um, I go through different traumas or whatever, and those are the people that come to me. And lately I've been focused, for the past couple of years I've been focused on more optimization. I realized that if I go into a ceremony with the intentions of healing something, I'm always going to have to find something to heal. But if I go in for celebration or optimization, then it's just different. And whatever I'm going, it just myself guides whatever comes to me. And um, so at first, it was veterans coming to us. That was our first main intentions. Like, okay, this would be really helpful for veterans. And then veterans start coming, and then eventually they would start bringing their spouses with them or friends. And then I started realizing, really quick, that everybody needed this. Come to the realization that whether you know it or not, even if you grew up in the perfect household, you still had a trauma like sometime in your life. If we can go back to when your umbilical cord was cut, if it was cut, you have a trauma. Like, even if you have a perfect childhood all the way through, all the money, loving parents, and never wanting for anything, never wanting for love or anything, you still had a trauma done to you. You still had, there's galactic, there's universal laws that's been shown to me. And one of them is like, one being will not interrupt the path of another being. And I write about that in my first book. And but cutting the cord is a very, people have heard of lotus births, things like that. These are things that's been kind of pushed under the rug, and um, in the grand scheme of things. But it all starts from birth, like from the minute we first take our first breath, like how we're raised, circumcisions, everything, but yeah, to change the world, we need to start going back to those old ways. There's a reason why there was lotus births, so that being can make a choice to separate from its source. And when someone makes that decision to sever that tether to source, I think a lot of us spend our lives trying to find that tether back.
So brilliantly said. And yes, I always talk about, I'm like, well, and a lot of this is like so pre-birth, right? It's eternal, it's ancestral, it's past lives. I mean, it's like there is no separation, and it's like it's such deep, deep work. And yeah, in the end, it's the disconnection from source, which, I believe is the answer to it's all the problems. That's it. It's like that is everything on the planet that everybody says is wrong. It's like, oh, the war and all this. And it's like, well, what is at the root of it all? And I have been talking about this for years and years, that while psychedelics are beautiful, while we've had these profound healings, while there's the unexplainable, it's like in the end, it's just trying to bring you back to this ultimate connection. And I always look at it as this pillar of light that's like earth, self, source, the divine pillar of, why are we incarnated here, and why did you choose to come here?
Sure.
And what would it be like if you really, chose to go back into that and chose to have that as the intention versus maybe like this or that. And it's like the ultimate healing is that. But, this is the human condition, right? It's
Yeah.
being a human alive on earth right now in this times that we're in, and who knows what will happen in, what we might call this ascension process, which, probably won't witness it fully in my actual lifetime in this incarnation. But, I do believe that there's an evolution happening, and hopefully we'll see a different planet, at some point
It's
in
moving
many,
rapidly at this
many more
point.
lifetimes. I know it is definitely
Yeah.
rapid. It's pretty intense.
Yeah, one of the things I say pretty much in all my Bufo ceremonies, is especially when people are really in the good space, like um, you're a conduit in between Mother Earth and Father Sky, and there's energy going through you, and it's your choice to dictate what you do with it. And you have each and every one of us. There's no hierarchy in this thing. That's why uh, I think the old teachings of being the shamanism and things like that, oh, don't share this, don't share that. These songs can't be sung, or don't share your vision. This a lot of my elders who I respect greatly, but I just don't vibe with some of the things they're saying, because the spirits are telling me exactly the opposite. Like if you have a spirits are telling me if you have a spirits say if you have an experience, share it, because you're part of the collective, and maybe someone else needs that little nugget that you have in your story to create their, to complete their puzzle. You
Yeah.
have that puzzle piece that they may be missing. I think the old ways had its time of protection and persecution from laws and everything, but um, I think now's the time moving forward. And the laws are changing very quickly. It's by no accident we're in Colorado before laws started to change there. So I think everything is in line, and now's the time to manifest. But you have to clean your vessel first before you can manifest, and because you don't want to manifest other obstacles for humanity, you want to manifest like solutions for humanity. If your vessel's not clear, you're going to manifest obstacles. So
Yeah. I'm constantly talking about how all it is clearing, being a channel. Like I really do believe we're all here to be a channel. And I agree with you completely. I've actually addressed this in previous interviews over the years about, there is a reality to the times that we're living in, and we need voices. We need everybody to open up and share and radiate our hearts. And that, our voice is our medicine, our hearts, our energy is our medicine. This is why my podcast is called Medicine for These Times. It's like my my tagline is, you are the medicine we need for these times. And we are in this together as a collective. And yeah, these ways of shutting people down or not sharing, I mean, we're in the age of Aquarius, which is about collaboration, coming together for the greater good, for the collective. And I think, more and more people are, hopefully, I mean, I feel like I've been living in this a while, are waking up to this, because the old ways was not really serving, and we're seeing there is this better way where it does take all of us. And yes, to be really in that clear channel of also, having your ego in check. And the reality is, we all have egos, we're all human, we're all going to make mistakes. It's just being human, and having more of this compassion for one another, and to come together in unity and understanding, versus this separation of like, well, I don't like your way, so I'm not doing it, and I'm not going to share. And then it's like, no, that's not what we need right now. We need actually everybody pitching in their unique medicine to be in these changing times, and to hopefully see a greater transformational shift on the planet, which is my personal mission. But I want to shift and ask you a little bit about Bufo. It's fascinating how these interviews always work. Everything's a mirror, right? I was literally talking to some friends this morning. Say I had to go pick something up that I had left at this place that I was at, and somehow we got to talking about Bufo. And it's interesting. It's a medicine that I have great respect for. I've done it a few times. I am not called to work with it much, because it is just so powerful that I feel like I don't personally need it that much. And I personally feel like I don't know if anyone needs it like on a regular basis. But and I have seen some people maybe go into, including myself, the first year I did it in 2017, it took me about 6 months to integrate, and then about a year to really fully integrate. And it was a little destabilizing for me, but I look back and it was a very beautiful experience. I'm glad I did it, but wow, it was just like no one had warned me. And over the years, we've all learned a lot more. And that was, kind of in the earlier days. And I remember just being like, wow, why is no one talking about how this maybe could like really destabilize some people, or maybe people that are not in the right mindset, or don't have the right integration support, or don't really have other support, or don't have their own daily spiritual practices. I'm curious, how do you go into the Bufo space, and do you think this medicine is really for everyone? And how do you prepare and integrate, or suggest that people integrate? Because I've kind of questioned its popularity. Like, I believe it's a master healer medicine for these times that we're in. And sometimes it kind of freaks me out, where I'm like, is this really for everyone? Because it can be, I've seen people kind of go in the wrong direction. Let's just say that. So what are your thoughts on that? And do you agree a little on that, or no?
I do agree. I mean, I don't think it's for everybody. I don't think any of these medicines. I don't think any of these medicines are just a blanket. For that can be for everybody. I don't think ayahuasca is for everybody. I don't think Bufo's. Definitely don't think Bufo is for everybody. And I definitely don't. Um, I probably wouldn't serve medicine to someone if they haven't to Bufo to someone if they haven't had a prior experience with some other medicine. Just because Bufo does need a some structure to set on, a foundation. That's the word I was looking for. Bufo needs a foundation to set on. It's a big understanding that comes with it, the whole oneness thing. And if you haven't had at least some experience with psilocybin or preferably ayahuasca or something beforehand, especially to see how you're going to react to it. If, definitely, I would like people to see it before. It's very powerful. Um, Definitely, source frequency, no doubt. And but maybe it could be for everybody at some point. I'm not one to say that. I'm not no authority on it. But it could, definitely tread lightly going in for, when I serve Bufo to anyone, tread very lightly. I usually give a small dose first before I administer, the larger dose, just to see how someone's gonna react to it. See, just the onset, because the sudden onset of vibration is, if you're not ready for it, if you have no experience with that, it can be extremely overwhelming, to say the very least. So I always give a small dose when I am serving it, but our processes start, sometimes years before people actually come out and do ceremony with us. The pre integration, pre workup, and post integration is the largest part of what we do. My wife and the co-founder of Sacred Journeys within Ella, she's an LPN nurse, so she does heads up our medical side of it, the checkups and everything. We try to screen everybody as much as possible, and there's a few people we don't work with. Extreme areas of psychosis, multiple personality syndrome, things like that. We won't work with any medicine other just like maybe rape ceremonies or something, or sound healings. But we try to work with everybody. But obviously, I mean, these medicines, the first thing I ask people, like, what's calling to you? And like they call up and ask for or ceremony or interest in a ceremony, and if they don't, specifically say up front, I ask them, like, what medicine is calling to you? What have you been seeing in your dreams? Like, what words have you been seeing a lot lately? So I think these medicines call to you, and ultimately, if you sit down with someone and they serve the medicine, it's the right time, whether it's a lesson for the practitioner or if it's a lesson for the participant, it's the right time. So it's, I'm not, I don't look at, I'm more of an observer mindset now, really in my walk, and don't really pass judgment on anything like that. Is very helpful, transformative, no doubt. The lessons that come out of it, if you can absorb them in the proper way, can be life changing, and ultimately, earth changing.
Yeah. I'm glad you shared that. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been interesting to explore it. My personal experience was that, yeah, I got the large full release dose my first time. And yeah, it was one of these things where I was like, I don't know if I need this again in my life. Like, that was so powerful that I think, it's something I say it's like in every 5 years maybe, or every 10 years, or when is really calling you. But here's the thing, and this is what my friends and I were talking about today, was that I have seen in certain medicine communities and certain people that there's now just such an availability out there, and it's become very popular. And of course, people are hearing about it. There's people maybe doing it a lot, and I always wonder, like, what's that about? Do you need it a lot, or it just feels really good? Because there is an aspect of it where it's like, wow, who doesn't want to feel that connection, that oneness,
Mhm.
which, I personally, like you said, it's like I've had some of my most profound spiritual oneness experiences without any medicine, just within like a moment of life that just, there's like a clip, and it's like, oh. So to me, I always talk about how this is available, and this really is available all the time. And I actually see it more as a potential tool for how we can access this on our own. But I'm curious, what do you have any? And because I also agree with you, I also try to be, to each their own, non-judgmental,
Yeah.
because everything is a lesson, some form of evolution. And here's the thing: everyone has to go through their lesson somehow.
Mhm.
But what do you think of people maybe doing it all the time, or coming back, or like, even the people you work with? Like, why are people turning to this medicine? Is it because they hear about it on a podcast and they are fascinated by it? Or is it that they're like for me, it was something I was really trying to break through that I just couldn't break through. Like for years and years and years and years and years of therapy, I was like, okay, this is one of my last resorts.
Yeah. So just start off, I was anti Bufo for a while. I
Hmm.
was married to ayahuasca and thought that, I shouldn't go outside of out that medicine or branch out, and uh, to back up, people. I had a Renato, our medicine teacher. Both me and Ella's medicine teacher um, really got me to take on the altar of San Pedro, and that was like the first altar outside, the major altar outside of ayahuasca that I hold. And I did Yopo maybe back in 2000. 17 or 18. And that totally shut me off from 5-MeO for a long time. You know, a light, I saw a light in the corner of the room, and I was with one of my teachers, and he was serving it, and I was setting up behind the altar, and back in the corner of the room, this light started opening up, and this big doorway opened up, and these three grays like ducked down and come through this doorway, and they walked in the room. They grabbed me by the hand. They showed me how to use my hands to heal people and all kinds of stuff. And that really shut me off to 5-MeO for a long time. And people offered me Bufo. People offered to give me Bufo. You know, just here, take a half a gram. You know, take it back with you and work with it. You know, you can work with it. I'm like, so I had people give me Bufo, and I was holding on to it. I was like, I don't want to work with this. Like, I don't want to go back there. You know. But eventually curiosity got me, and eventually sat down with it in the proper way, and saw that it was 5-MeO wasn't the same as that was not Yopo, and Bufo was not the same. It was 5-MeO, but two totally different like paths that it teaches, And yeah, I just realized, and this is after my oneness experience, and what I experienced in that was pretty much exactly the same as that. And I come out of there and I sobbed for a good, half hour of just like how much it could help humanity. And the medicine showed me that I'd be working primarily with that moving forward. And I, sobbed more and more at that, just like, because I was such in gratitude to be trusted with serving it. I forgot the question. Sorry.
Yeah, no, this is good. Actually, well, this kind of leads to the next question is,
Sorry.
now when you say like helps humanity, because honestly, that's what I feel about all of these. It's like you come out of them or even not out of them, and you're like, maybe this is our only hope, on some level. I mean, that's kind of
It's
what started me onto this path of exploring how these medicines are awakening us to purpose or, fulfillment, and questioning what we're doing with our work, because work is so ingrained into our quote survival here, even though that's just actually part of the whole system. There's another conversation, but it made me question, like, well, what is this all about? Why are these growing in popularity? Why are these medicines even here right now for these times? Why even Bufo has this whole mystery around it? It's kind of a quote newer discovery, and what is this for? Why is it here? But when you really drop into all this, like, why do you think these medicines are here right now, and where do you think we're all going with this? Like, have you explored this? I'm sure you have.
Yeah, I think we're going. I think it's a cycle. I think I have a theory that everybody incarnation right now on this planet, a lot of us, if not all of us, have some type of past lives connected to us, or vibrational spaces connected to the lives that we're in now from Egypt. And there's been plenty of times where people come out of ceremonies and they speak to me and they're like, I remember you from Egypt. I remember you serving medicine in Egypt. And some of them remember me serving Bufo in Egypt. And coincidentally, there's a trip in the works where I might be going to Egypt and serving Bufo to a famous lady that's well known. Have you ever heard of the guy that mapped? Long story short, I think it's for humanity. I think it's awakening up all the master healers out of their sleep for humanity. I think Bufo's here for that. And I think it's ultimately, I think everybody on incarnation will come to this conclusion, hopefully in the lifetime. I've been shown it's going to happen in our lifetime. I think that I see this whole evolutionary path moving forward so fast in the years to come, that it will happen in our lifetime. I think that's what is so special about our lifetime, this time right now, is because a lot of us is being born in one reality and going to be passing away in the other, passing physical form in the other. I mean, just over the past couple of years, we went from aliens being fictional to all of a sudden now the government's admitting that we've been watching them for years, which a lot of us known that from just intuition or ceremony or whatever, or personal experiences. And I think that's part of it too. The more you open up to these ways, the more people are, reporting having experiences with our star brothers and sisters. I spoke about it many times before. This has never been a secret to many Native American tribes that our star brothers and sisters are actually family, really a future version of ourselves. You know, time is not linear. Time is very cylindrical. You know, it moves around everywhere. So, um, you know, Bufo, you know, helps open up all these things. I think ayahuasca is here to help us connect back to the earth, connect back to our divine, especially for, you know, a lot of warriors, you know, combat veterans go to ayahuasca and get connected back to, you know, their inner child and their divine feminine, their mother, and the divine mother. And I think ayahuasca is doing, you know, the other side of that, or maybe a different aspect of it is connecting back to our source, our true light, you know, the center of the universe, the center of the crystal planet and the darkness. You know, it's that's where the throne room's at, and that's where Bufo takes you.
So good. And this is, I agree. I've seen visions of, like, I mean, we have to admit things are moving very fast. There's a lot of evolution happening extremely, extremely fast. And the visions I've been seeing for over 10 years now have all shown me this lifetime. But then I'm like, wow, is that realistic? How's that possible? But then, I have hopefully 50 more years left or so. Who knows? But and yeah, I mean, at the rate everything's going, and then with these medicines and with other modalities, and then other gifts coming online. I mean, more and more people I've been talking to, even myself, it's like you just can't deny that there's um certain spiritual gifts or energetic gifts that just weren't possible even a few years
Mhm.
ago that are like coming online for so many people. And it's like, well, like you said, if we're able to work with it and see it and be open to it, it just keeps showing itself more and more. And that's one thing that I believe these medicines have been really helpful with is, it's like even tapping into synchronicity and intuition and just yourself and the magic of reality. The second you start to open up that perspective that, like, wow, this is heaven on earth. This is the magic is available at all times. You don't need magic mushrooms to show you magic. And the more you see it, the more it shows up for you. And it's like then you live in a whole different reality. And I, probably a lot like you, I look back on 20 years ago, and I'm like, wow, I mean, things were pretty magical even as a little kid. I always picked up on certain things, but now it's like every moment, even in the most challenging situations, it's like I can see
Mhm.
the dots
Mhm.
connect. I can see the divineness in everything. And then it makes us so much better able to serve during the hard times. And I do believe, as you were saying, it's like so many of us are getting tested. There's a lot of tests coming up, and it's, there's been challenges for so many people, and even like, combat veterans and people going through major traumas. It's like, well, what is it all for? Right. And if you're here to serve, or you're here to, step into your purpose, like Drew said, know who you truly are, and then be able to give back and serve. This is what it's about.
Mhm.
And I do believe it's time for everybody to come in, and it's all hands on deck. Like, what are we dragging our feet for? And in the end, it's like, this is your incarnation.
Yeah,
Like, how are you going to live it? Right.
yeah. You know, I think important thing to address at this point is like uh, one thing that's plaguing the spiritual community at this point is imposter syndrome, and
Oh,
that comes from judgment from our peers. Uh, that being said, there is discernment. You know, you
mm-hmm.
can't you can't have one cup ayahuasca and think that you're ready to serve the medicine. Like when we first
Yeah.
started in our service, when we got called to service, you know, we started emptying buckets and cleaning out purge buckets and
Mm-hmm.
cleaning up messes in the back. You know, the the dirtiest of dirty like things. That's how our service started when we first started down this path. You know, I didn't go from drinking ayahuasca to serving bufo. There's been a
Yeah.
lot of things that's
Yeah.
happened in between. But
Definitely.
that being said, there is the people putting down, you know, one person gets the vision, but then they hear someone else gets the vision to serve, and now they know I've been serving for a year or I've been serving for 2 years, and this person shouldn't be doing it. Well, who are you to say? You don't have any authority. You don't have any authority of this medicine. It doesn't matter if you're wearing a head full of feathers, you don't have any
No,
authority over this medicine or the spiritual world. Like, there is no
no one
authority.
owns it.
We're all
No one
we're all
owns
in
this
this together.
medicine.
And so that's something that we need to look at and address more. Step into your power, and um, but be real with yourself. Like, if you're not right,
Oh,
you don't serve medicine.
that's
And don't
talk about the
push
soul.
ceremonies. Like, if people come to you for ceremonies, then it's meant to be. And we advertise for ceremonies, but we never, we're never out there like begging or anything like that. I don't have to do that. Definitely don't have to do that. But we're focused on right now is people with large downstreams, because that's going to be the most effective. Business owners, and a lot of people come to us. They have, 500,000 people in our downstream. And that's really taken it to the next level for me. I'm not just helping one person. I'm actually, if I can change the head of a business, then I don't have to serve medicine to those other people. They're going to be affected by the repercussions from that one person being changed. And it's a numbers game for me at this point. There's a lot of people out there that need help. I know I'm not the only one doing this. I wouldn't want to be, but I'm definitely going to do my part in the time that I still have here. And also going to be working on trying to remain you know, preserve my memory so I can carry this on to the next, so I don't have to restart. And I think that's where I think that's really the truly key to immortality, is keeping our memory from one incarnation to the next. And hopefully, I'm past the forgetting stage, and I can start off where I left off, wherever that is in this lifetime.
I love it. God, that's funny. That's actually come up for me recently. Oh my God, Drew, this has been such a great conversation. I actually agree. I could totally talk to you for hours about imposter syndrome versus discernment, because that's actually a huge part of the work I do with my clients, is to get into this balance of, yes, maybe not everybody's here to serve huge doses to everybody and their mother, but how do you still serve and show up in your purpose and keep your ego in check and be discerning, and get past the imposter syndrome, because again, everybody has their own unique medicine, but maybe it's not necessarily becoming a shaman after one
Mhm.
experience and then trying to serve medicine the next day. But and this is what we'll see. This is the medicine for these times, is really stepping in your personal power, as you said, and shining your light and having your voice be heard and getting out there in the world, because you are needed
Mhm.
now. But Drew, I want to conclude by asking, where can people connect with you? Do you have a website? And you mentioned a book. So go ahead and share. And then, anything coming up in the next year that you want to shout out.
Yeah. So first book, you can find me Sacred Journeys Within. Journeys spelled with IES. You can just type in my name and find it, Drew Bankey, or the website, and you can find a lot of things, links to my books from there, all types of different things. Rape, we got an online store there. My first book, I'm Perfect and So Are You, and Find Your Inner Guru is my second book. They're both on Amazon if you can't find them on my website. I'm sold out on my website, so don't even go there trying to buy a book. You can check out our whole story and find pictures and links to tons of other podcasts I've done and speaking events. Um, about 95% sure I'm going to be speaking at Winterdelic up in St. Petersburg here in Florida next weekend. Haven't been totally confirmed for it yet, but I'm probably going to be speaking there, speaking on manifestation, human evolution, and I think I can't remember the third topic, but I'm going to be speaking. Those are my topics I'll be speaking on. And yeah, there's a show on Discovery Channel, Homestead Rescue. We were part of that. Our episode is in season 11, which just aired November 19th. Episode 1, Where the Wild Wind Blows. And get your tissues ready. It's very emotional. There's a lot of crying in it. Me and my wife said that we should make it like we don't drink anymore, but a smoking game of like taking a bong hit or something every time that someone cries on the show. But we talk about mental health in there. Suicide has been a big problem in our family, and that's another test of um, you can spread the message, but you can't always help the people that are closest to you. You know, you have to, and those are huge lessons in that. So that comes out in the show. Just be prepared. It's very emotional. We do talk
No.
pretty openly about suicide during that show. So it's probably one of the reasons why I got picked for the first episode. Other than that, we're going to be doing a lot of expansion next year. Working about to lock things down with an investor and buy another property. So the first part of the year's definitely going to be getting into a new property, getting it set up, and be looking forward to a brand new location for the base for Sacred Journeys Within. And next year is going to be amazing. I hope for everybody. And yeah, when one thing that come to mind when the hallucinations change to visions for me, it changed from something really cool to something very profound and life changing. So, take what you see in these ceremonies, like dissect it. It's there for a reason, and apply it to your life and see how it integrates with your life. It's there for this lifetime. These are messages for this lifetime now. They're not messages for past, present, and future. They're messages for what you can do now. And that's a very profound thing. When the hallucination changes to a vision, it becomes very profound. So I pray that for everybody, and love, light, and happiness to everybody. And thanks for having me, Beth. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much, Drew. It's so good to have you here. Lots of love.